Jazz Club.
Hi, happy Monday. We're back at it again. We are. Welcome to those of you who are joining us for the first time. This is The Death of Cliff Huxtable. This is episode 11. We are nearing the conclusion of our series. And I'm very excited about tonight because we get to hear from a character that again, as I've said time and time again in previous episodes, is my favorite character of the series. Tonight, we're going to hear from Eunice Chantilly. Before we do, I just want to check in with you all. Hopefully you were watching on Facebook Live or YouTube or on Twitter. And tonight, we definitely want to engage you all because we want to talk about, before getting into the panel discussion tonight, I posed a question earlier on social media asking that if your loved one was passing away, if they were in their final days, and they made a request of you being their spouse or significant other or boyfriend, girlfriend, or however, whatever relationship you show up for them, they were to ask you to get in touch with their first love or past relationship or former spouse of some sort, would you make that call? And so in the comments a little later on, we're going to ask you to contribute to that conversation. And, we're going to have a community discussion about it. Before we go on, look, I'm going to say it. I've said it already. I'm going to continue to say it, that we are still in a pandemic. Situations are actually more dire in areas where it wasn't as dire before. Texas, Florida, everybody had to go out and go swimming and go camping and go playing with each other and partying and, having big fun in the streets. And now, we're kind of paying for it. The cases that are coming up now are pretty much tracking back to Memorial Day. We stepped out in the world too early. Places were opening up too early. I know here Governor Abbott is trying to walk back his funky attitude about, opening up and making sure that Texas made its money. Well, now we're paying the price for it. So, if you have to be out in the world, wear your mask. I'm going to show you, I want to say thank you to a few people who have taken the time since March, I guess, to help my efforts by making some masks for us. My friend Afton Garrett, I want to spotlight her first. Afton made 4 masks for me. She made this awesome teal mask, which is one of my favorite colors. I think actually Michelle wears this one more than I do. She made this one, which I wear if I want to put on something nice and feel kind of cute. This is a good one. It's all like designer looking, and she did a great job with that. But she knows my favorite character of all time is Superman, and so she made this one for me. And I double masked this one because I have had to report to work at Prairie View a couple times because we're doing renovations in my TV studio. I call it my TV studio right now. It's the schools, of course, it's my students, of course, but I'm calling it mine because it's being towed up from the flow up, and we're building something new and exciting. And because I have to go, and sometimes I've had to meet with the architects and the people who are doing all the work. I do double up on this mask, and I wear this one to work so they know what's up. One of my colleagues, Dr. Jennifer Erdley, also made 3 masks for me and Michelle and Emma. 4 masks. And so this is the one I wear most often. It's another Superman mask. It's pretty awesome. She made this one. And the other 3 we gave to the grandbabies. Because this one's a smaller mask. Oh, it does double duty too. You can wear the other side if you feel kind of spicy. When we go out in the world again. We feel kind of spicy. I'm gonna wear that one on the other side. And so, yeah, Jen made that, and I appreciate you so much for making that. And the kids look really cool with the other ones that you made. This is one, just a plain black one. Sometimes you just need to be incognito sometimes. And so I have this plain black one that I picked up when I went to Seoul, South Korea back in December. I brought in the New Year's in South Korea and in Japan. And I picked up a mask while I was there because, it seems to be it was a cool thing to do. And now it seems like it's the necessary thing to do. And then I've also ordered some additional masks before, things got really intense. I ordered some masks online, one of which has Prairie View on it. And so I wear this, what I feel like representing my HBCU, Prairie View, PV, yep. And this is one of those like ones with the extra filter inside, and it looks all like you about to go into a war zone for real. But just to kind of keep my spirits up, I also got one that has crayons on it because I am a school teacher and I like crayons. If you remember, I have a coffee table book called The Box 69. And when I saw the one with the crayons, I was like, I got to get the one with the crayons. And then, me, I'm a coffee head, so I like coffee. There was a sale going on with these masks. So I bought 4 of them. I bought 5, actually. I bought 5. And then it was one with like witches or something on it. I gave that one to Michelle. But I think Emma ended up with it. They like the witches and stuff. But this has coffee, different types of coffee, cappuccino, latte. So when I feel like, I'm in a bookish mood today, I'm going to, my coffee, if sitting here in the living room, well, not sitting in the living room, I'm wearing my mask in the house. But I don't know. These days, you never know. And then finally, it speaks for itself. Bink bank. Happy Pride, y'all. You got to wear your mask when you're being proud. You got to wear your mask when you're being proud. So, So yeah, I have masks for all occasions, and I will wear my mask. I figure out what my outfit is, and I'm gonna wear my mask. If I were to go out right now in this little outfit that I got on there, I'll probably wear this one. Oh, that's too much. Hold on. I might wear this one. Or just the plain black. You can't go bad with black. Oh, that's cute. I would do that. Wearing a mask doesn't have to be the most awful thing. As some of these people that you see online, they're acting like it's the worst possible thing to put on a mask. Ain't nobody telling you to live in it. Just put it on when you go outside. Keep yourself safe. If nothing else, keep yourself safe. Don't worry about anybody else. Be selfish. Put on a mask so that you don't catch anybody else's cooties. I walk out here assuming everybody else can get me sick. And cheers. All right. So that's my PSA for the day. Let's get on to the reading of Eunice. Steam ascends from my bathwater, smelling of lavender and eucalyptus. My raised back, freestanding copper tub makes me feel like a queen every time I take a bath. Candles lit, smooth, soft jazz bellowing from the stereo in the background. I soak my sadness and drown my dreams of loving him. It is finally time to let Cliff go. I continue my bath, beads of sweat falling off my breast, tears streaming down my face. On the voicemail.
He's calling for you. He needs you here.
I didn't answer the call, as I know no one from the 718 area code. Oh, I know one number from that place called Brooklyn.
Listen, I know how much he means to you, Eunice, and I know what you mean to him. My husband is dying, and he's asking for you. I know this is the most impossible message to receive after 50 years. Nearly as impossible as it was for me to make this call. But my husband is dying, and he's asking for you too. So please come.
That message replays in my mind. Burned deep in my brain is the quiet pride of the woman who won the man. a woman who stands above petty and calls with grace. I despise her for being so magnanimous. That shit simply pisses me off. But today, however, her grace will afford me to see the first love of my life, and for that I am grateful. Now, if I could just figure out what to wear. High above the city, New York is a monstrous beauty. I don't travel often, and rarely do I take planes anywhere, and seeing the city's tall buildings from the sky is exciting. I flip through my travel book from 1995 to New York City, find a map of Manhattan, and I find the World Trade Center. And I look out my window and I say a solemn prayer for the island that has lost so much. I'll be glad to be back on the ground. And then the cab pulls up to the address she sent me by text this morning before I left Stone Mountain. The house looks warm in the early September sun. I pay the cab driver and tip him very well.
Are you sure, ma'am? This seems to be a lot.
I know what I gave you. You're a part of the story. I've been waiting 50 years to live. Consider it a blessing for playing your part.
Okay. Well, thank you.
No, son. Thank you. Do I look all right?
You are a vision.
Speak plainly, son. A vision? I don't know what a vision look like. I could be rabid dog ugly and be a vision.
Ma'am, you ain't nowhere near rabbit dog. I'll tell you that. You look beautiful. I especially like that green beret. Is it wooden?
Well, yes. Yes, it is. It is. It's got a stone in it and everything. My love gave this to me over 50 years ago, and I'm wearing it for him today.
Well, he'll love it.
I hope so. I step out of the car and close the door behind me. The cab slowly drives off, leaving me standing in the street. What am I doing here? I can't go in there. Well, I can't stand out here either. The cars are whizzing by. Step up on the sidewalk, proceed to the front door. Take one step at a time, each step erasing a decade away from him. Each step feel like a louder thud in my heart, like it's about to explode. Reaching the top landing and raising my wrinkled finger to ring the bell, I catch my reflection in the window and I look at my hair and my makeup and my dress to make sure they're set, all perfectly set. And my reflection changes to a face I recognize, but it is not my own.
Hello, Eunice.
Claire.
I'm so happy you made it.
I smell politely, waiting for Claire to invite me into the house. The glass stone in my beret catches the afternoon sun, bouncing a sparkle of light into Claire's eyes. Claire is wearing a plastic green bracelet, which looks awfully cheap and out of character for the impeccably dressed Mrs. Huxtable. She extends her arm and says,
"Oh, where are my manners? Please, come in."
I step through the threshold of a world I'd hoped would be my own many, many moons ago. I look around the living room, surveying, looking for a shortcoming, for any chance to say, I would do that better. But there's no such signal. There's no such evidence that Cliff and Claire's life together wasn't perfect.
Oh, can I get you something to drink? Water or coffee or tea?
Oh, tea sounds nice.
Good. I just put some water on to have a cup myself. Let's go into the kitchen, pour ourselves some tea, and then we'll head upstairs to see Cliff.
Okay. Well, that sounds nice. Y'all, I'm so nervous. I'm trying to tell myself to relax and stop saying everything sound nice. It's always been my coping mechanism to minimize my emotions when I'm overly invested or engaged in an unsavory experience. I say, sounds nice. I suspect plenty will sound nice today. We move into the kitchen. The hot water is whistling in the kettle. Claire reaches into the cabinet for a second mug for tea while I take a seat in the kitchen. Claire, you have a lovely home. I always suspected you would.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. Yes, it has served my family well for what? Oh, 50 years. Yeah, I'm just glad it's still standing.
I can't stand her. I can't stand her. I hate her with the heat of 1,000 suns. Let me tell you, she couldn't just say thank you. No, she had to remind me that she and Cliff been together for 50 years. Well, I would have been with Cliff for 51 years had she not come switching around with her fast self. 50 years. What she want me to do? Get up and go sing her a song and dance in the living room because they've been in this house together for 50 years? Well, Claire, it's a lovely home. And being here for 50 years, well, that sounds nice. We genteel rivals made our way up the back stairs to the second floor. I could feel my heart race and my palms moisten with sweat. I shouldn't have come. This is going to hurt too much. Passing the plethora of bedroom doors, Claire finally escorted me into the master bedroom. In bed, resting peacefully, Cliff is sleeping. Oh, his face. His face is just as I remember it. Sweet and kind. I count the constellations of moles and soft wrinkles on my love's face, but oh, he is as beautiful as the first time I laid eyes on Heathcliff. Tears well up in my eyes, for today I will lose my love again. And Claire gently shakes Cliff's shoulders, followed by a soft call to wake up.
Cliff, darling, wake up. Someone's here to see you.
Oh, it's okay, Claire. Let him sleep. I can sit with him for a little while he rests, okay?
Well, are you sure? I mean, I can...
Oh, no. Let me sit quietly with him first, if that's okay.
Okay, I'll be in the next room. Call me if you need anything.
Claire walks out of the room and closes the door behind her. I stand still in the middle of the room, staring at Cliff, still asleep in the bed. I look around the room, this place he spent the last 50 years with that other woman. I imagine Cliff getting dressed for work, for church, for bed in this room, settling into his bed after a long day at work. I imagine curling up next to him every night and sleeping in late with my love on the holidays and the occasional free Saturday. I imagine Cliff making love to me in this bed I stand before now. I want to let go of my petty jealousy before I come sit next to you, Cliff. I want to let go of the heartbreak of you leaving me so many years ago. Look, I know we have both moved on and married other people and had families, but I still carry a hurt that I wasn't woman enough for you. I later realized I'm plenty woman for any man. But you aren't just any man now, are you, Cliff? So I'm going to stand here for a minute and let go of my petty jealousy. Because when I come to you, I want to come with an open love in my heart. And I want our last moments in this life to be love-filled. For just the two of us. Just the two of us. I release a deep sigh, expelling 50 years of regret. I slowly walk over to Cliff's bedside and pull up a chair. I sit. I slowly take Cliff's hand in mine and I cradle his hand like a schoolgirl holding her sweetheart's hand for the first time. Cliff opens his eyes, blinking around the room a little bit to adjust to the light. He looks around the room in a medically induced daze until his eyes land on me. And he can't believe who he's seeing.
Hey, Eunice? Eunice, is that you?
Hey, Bucky. How you feeling?
Bucky. I haven't heard that one in a long time.
Yeah, it's been a while, huh? It's good to have the little things that remind you of home.
Home.
Yeah.
Yes, I suppose you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Let me sit up. I want to see you.
Oh, yeah, let me help you get your pillow fluffed up and set you up. Let me help you.
Wait. Does Claire know you're in here? You know that woman don't allow no other women in our bedroom.
Oh, so I ain't no other woman. I'm the first woman.
Oh, Lord. Here we go.
Yes, and everybody needs to get their minds wrapped around that.
I'm glad you're here, Niecy.
Me too, Bucky.
But how'd you know to come?
Well, y'all, Petty doesn't leave a room quickly enough. I pause before answering. The truth will illuminate Claire's angelic light even more than it already is, and I simply cannot stomach that idea. However, Claire did see fit to call me when plenty of other women would likely treat her husband's final dying wish as a delusional episode of pending death or the drugs. Claire loves her husband, and for that, and out of respect, I reply, well, Bucky, Claire, she called me. She told me you were hollering and carrying on and crying, and so I had to come.
What?
Yeah.
I wasn't hollering and crying.
Yes,
Was I?
Bucky. Yes, to hear Claire tell it, she said you were carrying on. She said you just had to see me.
Well, I did. I had to see you one last time.
Oh, Bucky, don't say that.
But it's true. This will be the last time that I see you. I'm dying. And it won't be long, but I'm glad. I'm happy that I get to sit with you at least for a little while.
Me too. Yeah.
I like your beret.
With this whole thing?
Yeah. I remember you liking it at the 5 and dime back home.
Mm-hmm. And I remember you ain't have not 5 nor a dime to get it for me.
Yeah, but I wanted to, though.
Well, wanted to and did are two different things, Bucky.
Yeah. But I finally came through, didn't I?
Yeah. For my birthday. A few years after. You left a box and a card on the porch, on the front porch.
I wanted to surprise you with a little something.
Mm-hmm. It was sweet. I almost threw it away, though.
I know. I am sorry, Eunice.
No, Bucky, you're not sorry. You're not. Look, I do accept your apology. I appreciate your apology, Cliff, but I didn't come to New York to rehash old hurts. And the obligatory, I'm sorry, is not necessary. You made a choice that lasted 50 years. You and Claire were supposed to be together, just like me and Albert. And we walked the path that was laid for us. I understand that. I loved you. I still do. I love you, Bucky, and I always will. Cliff is quiet. He takes my hand up to his face and smells the sweet lavender and eucalyptus scenting my skin. He brings my hand up to his lips and gently kisses my hand. My tears fall free and my love unlocked eternally. Eunice Chantilly and Heathcliff Huxtable, high school sweethearts, spend the rest of the afternoon courting and conversing of old times. Bucky and Niecy are together again. Our discussion following tonight's reading, the X Factor, different types of relationship structures. And if you if you think the idea of calling your spouse's former loves at the end of their life, let's have this discussion here tonight. Joining us again tonight will be Marla Renee Stewart, MA. She's a sexologist and a sex coach who runs her own sexuality education company, Velvet Lips. She is also a co-founder of the Sex Down South Conference and the Sexual Liberation Collective. She has studied human sexuality for more than 19 years and has been featured on a variety of social media outlets, not social media, well, not just social media outlets, but media outlets in general, and has spoken at a variety of engagements around the globe. This woman is dynamic, and if you tuned in on Thursday, you met Marla in our previous episode. We also have returning Rev Shell. Michelle A. Dowell-Vest, yes, is a metaphysical minister, family constellation facilitator, and clinical hypnotist. Michelle guides women as they connect the dots from their mother wombs to issues in their relationships, careers, finances, fertility, health, and parenting. She does this with a trauma-informed healing experience that breaks generational and subconscious cycles of pain between daughters and their mothers. Excellent. We welcome Michelle back tonight as well. And they join us tonight with Jeremy Erwin, who you just met as Calvin in the reading, but he is also joining us as a panelist, as well as Darnell Lamont Walker. Darnell is an award-winning documentary filmmaker. He is a writer of children's programming such as HBO's Sesame Street and the new Blues Clues. Darnell is a travel influencer as the founder and CEO of Passport Required. Featured in GQ, Cassius, The Root, Daily Beast, Rolling Out, Vogue, and more. Proud graduate of Bethune-Cookman University and Howard University, and is a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. Whew. And that is our collective of panelists. Hey, y'all.
Hey.
I just need to take a sip of water here real quick and just kind of collect my life a little bit. We had a wonderful time with that reading just now. And if we can bring up either Velicia or Daryl, we'll rotate them in the conversation as well. We're going to talk about relationships, structures of relationships. Let's check in with everyone and see how everyone's feeling today before we get into the throes of our conversation. Marla, how are you feeling today, sis?
Okay. Well, I'm in Florida, so it was all the numbers that have been coming out. I'm just, staying home. So that's that. But other than that, I really enjoyed that reading. And I really look forward to getting into this discussion today. So thank you for having me on.
Of course. Thank you for coming back. I appreciate you. And especially thank you for weathering the craziness there in Florida. And please continue to be safe. Be safe. Be safe. Hey, Darnell, how you doing today, brother?
What's happening? I'm good. I'm in New York, and I just made it out of a hailstorm. I almost didn't make it. It started hailing here like randomly as I went to pick up food. And so I got stuck in the rain. My whole butt's wet right now. I had to change my shirt.
Lord.
I'm sitting in wet shorts, but it's cool. I'm good.
Do you need a moment to go grab some fresh shorts?
I sure don't. So I'm good, but no, I'm good. It's funny. I've been good for the last couple of weeks. I mean, considering everything that's happening, I've been in the street and just hit the rally yesterday. But overall, I think I'm about an 8.5 out of 10. So it's pretty good.
Yeah. That's a mid B.
Yeah. That's right there.
Yeah, that's a passing grade. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Hey, Michelle, how you feeling today?
There we go.
There you go.
I am good. Some of you may know we're in the process of moving this week. And so I'm in a sea of boxes and I'm tired from that, but I am feeling really excited about the next couple of days and I'm really excited about the show tonight. So I'm good,
Good. I will tell you, she is in fact sitting in a sea of boxes. In fact, that room that she's sitting in right now, the only thing that's not packed is what you see behind her right now. What you see behind her and what you see behind me. That's pretty much the only things that are not in boxes at the moment. Thursday's show, we're excited to say, will be from the new house. And so hopefully the internet will be connected. Otherwise, I'll be on my cell phone talking about, hey, y'all, what's up? But it is an exciting time, but it's also incredibly exhausting. And all these things. Hey, Jeremy. Now, we just heard from you as Calvin, and tonight you're also one of our esteemed panelists. How are you feeling today?
I'm a little tired, but I feel good. Dealing with the death in the family over the weekend, so it's been a lot of back and forth with checking in on my family. So taking on a lot of that energy, plus my own emotional energy to that. But with all of that, I actually am good, really good.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you being here tonight. And, you're among family and the village will uphold you tonight. So
thank you.
Yeah. How you doing, Velicia? How you feeling today?
Good. I'm good. I'm better. It's been stressful as usual. The projects with the department, our side projects, but this is a nice reprieve. I enjoy this getaway time.
Yeah.
So I'm thankful for it.
Well, good. I do know you had a really busy but exciting day today. You've got a few projects going on. You want to give us the quick and dirty of what's happening, or can you share that, or are you under embargo?
One of my overall project, my dissertation, hopefully will be about just HBCUs embarking into Africa in a more physical sense, in a brick and mortar sense. And so the meeting today, it's not anything like official. It's just the burgeoning kind of part of that, like the ice breaking kind of part. So it was exciting. It's good news all around.
Excellent. Yeah, good stuff. Congrats. And if we can rotate Darryl in, I want to check in with Darryl also before we get into the meat and potatoes of our conversation, because he's going to be contributing plenty as well. How you feeling today, Darryl?
I'm feeling great. How are you?
I'm great, friend. Yeah, I'm doing all right.
I have to admit, I was super intrigued about Marla's what she does. So I'm on her web page right now. Yeah. I'm just asking for a friend, sister.
You just looking for a friend? You just checking for a friend? Got it. I'm so certain you'll find some great information, things that are educational and all sorts of delightful tidbits for you. Darryl, Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. It's a great networking opportunity. It is. And so as a reminder, we're talking tonight about relationships and relationship structures and different ways we can show up in relationships with and for our partners, as well as how we show up in the world beyond. And we would love for you all who are watching on whatever platform you're watching, just type into the comments, your input on the discussion tonight. And we, as you've seen, Laura will bring it up to the screen, but we also want to get your feedback on the topics as we discuss tonight. So let's go right into it. First question, let's swing back around to the chapter at hand. Let's just get right into the question of, would you make that call? Claire and her magnanimous self called Eunice Chantilly. And if you're familiar with the show, you are familiar with who Eunice was to Cliff, and by extension to Claire. And because we never saw her, I wanted to, when I wrote the book and even here in this series, I wanted to give her a voice and an opportunity to say goodbye to Cliff as well. And Claire calls her to come to New York. Would you do it?
Yep. I would.
Who said yep? Go ahead.
No, I thought he said no. I was like, oh man.
No, yeah, I definitely would. I mean, if it's about my partner and making sure that transition is the way they would like it to be, who am I to stand in the way of that? And what is there to lose? He's about to go. He ain't gonna get into a relationship with her. It's not gonna like come and interfere with what you have going on. So I would be like, sure, fine, do what you got to do, boo.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Who else?
So you want to help them transition the way that they would like to transition. So yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I would absolutely make that call. Yeah. I would. I don't. Yeah. I mean, I'm with Jeremy. Like, why would I not? I mean, it's not like you're going anywhere. I mean, except to
and writing in my journal just in case I get the call first. Folks are saying, yeah, they would make that call. Now, this has been actually a debate among the cast and others who will participate in this conversation throughout the evening, and that not everyone is saying they would make the call. What are some of the reasons why you wouldn't make the call?
Yeah, that's what
Darryl.
Yeah, you notice she said Darryl. And she's absolutely right. No, I wouldn't make the call. And one of the things we said, I said, Terésa, they're not going to be honest with you. They're going to tell you what they think you want to hear. No, I wouldn't make the call.
Why wouldn't you make the call, Darryl?
Nah, ain't happening.
He was like, that's reason enough. It ain't happening. Go for it, Marla.
I mean, it's so interesting because I would make the call, but I know for a fact my wife would not make that call. So my wife would be right with you, Darryl, and just be like, no, I'm not calling anybody to see you on your dying days. Like, the only person you need to be seeing is me, right? So I get it. Like, I don't know, and I'm not sure like what the reason would be exactly, other than just no. Like, I would seriously want to why? I bet she would say no, and I wonder why.
Yeah. Velicia had a really interesting. Go ahead, Darnell. Go for it.
I wonder if it's like a fear of hearing something that you just don't want to hear. Like, maybe you've been together 50 years, but in fact, he's been thinking about this woman every day. Maybe you don't. Maybe it's a fear of that. Like, I don't want to know that you've been thinking about. So I would make the call. I definitely would. But I also had my chart read, and it said I would never fall. I would never have anybody. I would die alone. So I don't.
Burn that chart up. Leave that chart alone.
We need to get you a new reading, Darnell.
We need to get you a new reading, a stage, burning something.
It's not happening for you. So we're
If we can rotate
my
Velicia
cards.
back in, because she had a really interesting take on the type of love it would take to make that call. Can you speak to that, Velicia? Tell us what your ideas around this whole thing. Playing Claire too, the added duty of playing Claire. What did you experience in preparing for tonight's reading? Wait, hold on. It's muted.
It was me. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah. So I go back to the very first time that you and I had a reading, an impromptu kind of reading. And I remember thinking, wow, who's that big a person? And we talked about the notion of agape, of this, our union being bigger than either one of us. And I can't even imagine being at that place in my life. And when you contextualize it and you think about 50 years, and the first thing that came into my mind was like chick in Sassoon jeans, and mine were like a size 6. And so I've given you all these babies and I'm no longer a size 6, and you have the audacity to ask for somebody else. Like, you know what I mean? Like, where I couldn't dream of being that big. And that was a hard part. Like,
Sure.
trying to wrap my mind about how Claire would react, knowing that I'm not anywhere near, no, not even close to.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Go for it, Darnell.
Oh no.
Oh,
I just do it like this.
you're right. I find it interesting that struggle informed your approach to Claire in preparing for tonight's reading, actually, as we spent the last couple of weeks, probably, the last month even, talking about this, whether or not Claire would make the call as opposed to where we would make the call. And again, taking into consideration, Claire Huxtable is a fictitious character and wonderfully played by Phylicia Rashad. And I wonder if the way Phylicia Rashad played Claire kind of informed whether or not in my writing I would have her make that call. Yeah. But what has been beautiful about the way you've played it is she made the call, but she certainly was shooting her daggers. She's using the moment to let everybody know. You've been in this house for 50 years, me and my husband and my babies. And so you still let me know there's something funky and fishy about this whole setup. What does that look like for all of us in terms of our real life, actual relationships? I think Marla started to touch on it a little bit in terms of, perhaps she would make the call, but her wife may not. Let's talk a little bit about the different types of structures of relationships and maybe what would inform that struggle or what would inform the yes. Different types of relationship structures that would allow the space for someone else to come in and have a participatory engagement. What are your thoughts about different types of relationships, different structures of relationships?
Well, I think personally, when thinking about I am a non-monogamous person in a monogamous relationship, marriage, I should say. And so thinking about who I am as a person and who my wife is as a person, the way that we view relationships are a little bit different, maybe, or how, maybe not necessarily different, because we agree on what certain non-monogamous relationships look like. But I think to have an open mind and for me to be able to go out and flirt and be more open, I think allows that space in my brain to say hey, similar to what, Michelle was saying, hey, this is, it is what it is and it's perfectly okay. And, I'm here with you and I'm open to these things. Whereas, she definitely would not be open to those things. And she's just a little bit more conservative. I mean, that's what it is. I think the more conservative you are, then maybe sometimes what you've been socialized in, these patterns of what relationships should look like, you get sort of, that gets ingrained in your brain. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so I just think the way that we're socialized just been, I grew up in California where people were very liberal, in Northern California. And whereas, she grew up here in the South, born in Haiti, grew up here. So, in Florida. So coming from a very conservative family. So coming together, I mean, it makes sense why we're in this relationship. But at the same time, like, I think the conservatives, sometimes those values are so ingrained that, it doesn't allow for that space.
Yeah. Yeah. Michelle?
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that, Marla, because, Terésa and I had this conversation when we first started dating, and she makes fun of it now, and she kind of laughed at me, but there was a serious, real deep conversation we had around it. But I told her that at the time, I told her that I was poly-minded. I was trying to get into this conversation about what it meant for me to be polyamorous. And then what it meant for me to be polyamorous, identify as polyamorous, but then still be in a monogamous marriage. And the reason that I was so committed to the idea of polyamory is because it extended for me just beyond my my intimate and my sexual relationships. It extended to my friendships, and it extended to the intimacy that I built with certain friendships and how close I wanted them and how they absolutely had to be a part of my life. And that had to be like a package. I think what I wanted to avoid with that conversation was getting into a relationship and then having all these restrictions put on me about who could be my friend. And in the amongst lesbians, sometimes it can be a little bit gray, right? And is that your friend, or is that, I know that y'all used to date, but where is it now? And are you guys really good friends, or should I be worried? And it's like all these different types of friendships that I have that are really intimate and really close, but just not sexual. And because I have been in relationships where those relationships became such a struggle to maintain because of jealousy and ownership and these ideas that when you get into a relationship, you automatically own somebody and you get to dictate who is around them. I needed to make sure that the relationship that I got into, especially in marriage, allowed me the space to be able to have those relationships in the way that I needed to have them to fulfill who I was in the world.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We definitely had to have that conversation early on. I'm much more monogamous focused. I don't really like sharing a whole lot. I don't mind, I don't mind. I know that you have practice, love, planning before getting to me. Like if you hadn't been in relationships and you've not experienced having to, show up for someone and then come to me like brand new, I probably wouldn't have done well with that. And Michelle will tell you, my adjustment to marriage in general, it was its own kind of.
It's still happening.
Okay. Yes. I'm like Darnell. I thought maybe the cards said one thing, the cards said one thing. No, but I do then recognize, though, that there are other people who have a hand in her life experience, and I wouldn't begrudge her that. I think the thing with our point of reference is that, for instance, with Michelle and myself, our marriage is 6 years old. But when I think about Cliff and Clair, they've been together at this point in the story, and I would assume that if the show was still on, that couple would still be together. I can't imagine what would happen for Cliff or Clair to get a divorce from each other, right? Mm-hmm. So let's say they've been together for 50 years at this point. We're not talking about a recent ex. We're not talking about someone who, was the last girlfriend 5 years ago, and, maybe she could be bringing in some messy. We're talking about that first love, like that one decade to go. Is there room for the informative part of your partner to say, hey, you know what? Yeah, let's have we can have your ex over for dinner, or we can, go out to dinner to see someone, or sure, I have no problem with you taking that phone call from someone who doesn't create any sort of threat, or you are in an open, your structure of your relationship is a bit more open. Is there room for that?
I think it's important. I think it's healthy. Like if you're strong enough, obviously, and secure enough in yourself to be able to handle whatever, like Darnell said, whatever is said or learned or exposed in that moment. But I feel like if I have the opportunity to see who my spouse was before me, or see where some of the traits that I see in our relationship may have come from, I would love to see that. I would love to know, like, what did he see in the person that he was with before? Like that first love, what did it feel like? Who was he? Who was this person to him? And how does that actually translate into who you are now and with me? And I could try, I mean, you can always learn from any bit of information. So it may be some things that you don't like to hear, but think about how that could enhance your relationship at that point, or how it can really kind of give you more insight as to why he is the way he is, what makes him tick, what does he love about her that he sees in you, and or how different you are, to show like his range and growth in time. So I think all of that information is vital, and you can use that to like move forward if you decide to, because some people may not want to after that point.
I've heard the word polyamorous. I've heard monogamy. These terms are but two terms that identify different types of relationship structures. What's the importance of these terms, and how do they help, and then how do they hurt in terms of being able to categorize who you are in a relationship that may not be defined in the same terms by your partner? In both cases, with Marla, as she described, she and her wife, and Michelle and I have described each other, how we are with each other. We don't necessarily identify as the same going into those relationships. What's the value of those terms or ideologies as relationships are defined?
I mean, I'm not in one of those relationships, but I would imagine that it would help to understand your partner better, and understand, when it's time to have that a conversation about where they are, what struggles they're dealing with at the time in terms of love and intimacy, and maybe they met someone at a club or someone walking down the street or in a coffee shop. It's like, we can have this conversation. I know how you're thinking because we've talked about it. I would imagine it adds to that. But again, I'm not there. I have no idea.
He's like, I don't know.
But I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of strange.
Marla, Jeremy? Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's kind of strange for relationships in the LGBT lifestyle compared to the heterosexual relationships, because for me, I feel like we are always trying to base the version of our relationship on traditional stereotypical relationships, which in my mind is already kind of like a fucked up structure in a way. Excuse my language. Sorry.
No, go for it.
Okay,
if it's a fucked up structure, it is. Yeah.
Because, in theory, you're like bringing two people's whole lives and ideas and beliefs into one unit and expecting everything to kind of just work. But each person has to grow. Like, we're still growing every day. So who I was yesterday, I'm not that today. So how can you say that we should just be with each other only until we die?
Sure.
And because we've seen that portrayed in movies and TV and Bible, all of these teachings about monogamy, and this is what a family is. This is what
there's a 1-to-1 type ratio. Yeah.
But for us, it's like, well, if you have a man and a man, we can't have babies. Like, we can't have the child. So it's not a must that we do this together. What if you want to do something else? And I think we're in the first generation of people, in my mind, that we really have the choice to choose how we want to live our lives, like totally, completely. And that can be relationships and just your expression of yourself. So how can we take that stereotype and put that into a box for us to try to live inside of and figure out, okay, are we monogamous? Are we open? Are we polyamorous? Or do we have an arrangement? So at the end of the day, I feel like each relationship has to have its own like spousal contract, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to figure out, okay, we want to just be with each other, but I get that I may not be fulfilling you sexually at a certain point. Or for gay men, it's like, well, you top and I bottom, but I don't want to bottom all the time, but you don't ever want to bottom, or whatever it may be. So it's like, well, we have to figure something out to where we can all both get what we need.
Yeah.
If what we're lacking is something that we can fix,
Yeah.
we got to be okay and open to have that discussion to fix it. Versus being stuck into what we think is supposed to happen because of hetero traditional relationships.
What if you partner with someone who's incapable of communicating as openly as you about those ideals?
You know, that's therapy. I think that's I would say therapy is where because I feel like I'm very communicative and I'm very transparent and blunt, sometimes to my detriment. But I feel like if I'm telling you and giving you open space and freedom to say exactly what you feel and you can't, then we need to go get a professional. You know, we need to get someone to help us vocalize what we're trying to say.
Yeah.
We didn't reach that point. You know, I'm sorry. Go
please do. No. Go ahead.
Or we just didn't get that. I mean, I think once you get to a point, because I used to be the one who was like, "How do you feel about me?" And I just like, "Well, I mean, I'm still here, so you cool, you know." And you know, and it took a lot. Like it took a lot of work. And I think once you do the work and you become the person who can now say it, you know, and can now communicate that, it's hard to be with someone who can't do it. And so I think when you get to a point where you're just like, you know, I mean, you cute and all, but I don't think this is gonna work. I don't think we can get past sex or get past whatever this is.
Yeah. He said, "I'm still here." Velicia.
So romantic.
I know, right?
You know.
Velicia, kind of circling back to the work that you're doing with different African nations and education and connecting to HBCUs and all those. We come from people who work in community, in villages, in that the structure of relationships. In a lot of ways, you know, men have particular roles, women have particular roles, but they are very different from these, you know, these Christian structures that have been established here in the United States. They are much more communal. They're much more, you know, the village takes care of the village, and sometimes it's, you know, a lot of women and you know, very few men, or whatever the case may be. You know, is the structure of monogamy or however we define relationships something that we've learned through our giving culture here, or are we still trying to tether to something that's calling us from back home?
Gosh, that is deep. That is honestly powerful. But there was, like, when we talk about Africa, there's so many. Just in Ghana alone, there's like over 60 some odd communities and cultures there in one country. So it's hard to say, you know, what's African culture or what it looks like. And it was so that's, wow. Terésa, that is one of the deepest. Wow. I would have to say, in a sense, and we're always evolving, relationships, people. And I'm definitely, I'm sure that we have a semblance. We're always going to hold on to some part of that which was just innate within us, you know, culturally. And I guess that's the only thing that's, honestly, I think that's still keeping us going with all that we've endured, you know. So, God, honestly, beyond that, that's powerful. You gonna make me write that down. I'm gonna have to.
You know, I think as I see Black women in this country who, you know, in a household, you might have a mother, an auntie, grandma, co-raising, co-parenting the baby. You got, you know, the neighbor who's going to help out. And, well, in the world that I grew up in, I don't know about the world today. I don't know if I don't know any of my neighbors where I live right now, and I'm not going to trust anybody with the care of Emma if she went out here and was like, you know, what's going on in the world? I wouldn't trust them with anything. But the way I grew up, in little Charlottesville, Virginia. You know, I lived in a house with my grandma and my mom and my aunt, and my mom, she reared me in all the most amazing ways. But my grandmother was also there to give, to give me lessons that I didn't get from my mom. And my aunt was there in a different way. And there was this extended community, even outside of my home, that was predominantly women. And I feel like, in my life, I've learned how to love women based on the women who reared me. And not coming from a place of, this had to have happened to her and that's why she liked women, or, I really feel like it's really rooted in something that's much more deeply entombed in me. Yeah.
Patricia Hill Collins calls it other mothering, this concept that she has. And it's interesting. I see it in the Black community, and especially now fathers. Black men are just, they're coming, they're doing some things. And so when you talk about those external relationships with women, Patricia Hill Collins definitely kind of hit the nail on the head. And that other mothering was always this extended village. And you're right. It was women nurturing.
I noticed when we had this conversation about relationship structures and would you make the call in a previous conversation, Darryl, before he left, he had to go. He had another engagement tonight, so he had to go ahead and leave early. But he said in the conversation yesterday, he goes, I don't think men would make that call because we're just structured a little bit differently. I can't imagine sitting with my wife. She's in her final moments, and I'm going to call another dude to come into that space. And there's this masculine energy of marking territory, of saying, this is my domain. And I don't care what history you had with her. I don't care what y'all did before. I don't care if you taught her how to hold hands and do all the things that I love for her to do. That is in the past. And you're not welcome here. How much is this? And I know Darnell and Jeremy both said you would make the call, but what is it about masculine energy or masculine approaches to relationship? I see it in masculine of center women. Michelle and I were just watching a couple of videos earlier today about this lesbian couple who like to prank each other. At this point, I think it's a show, but this lesbian couple who like to prank each other, and the lesbian in the relationship who's a bit more masculine of center, she goes from 0 to 100 like that. And it's just very territorial and don't like anyone talking to her. Boo, who you talking to? Who on the phone? Who at the door? What you doing? And it's like territorial sort of masculine energy. How do we?
They're also in their 20s.
Huh?
So they're also in their 20s.
How do we negotiate with men, or with that energy at the very least, about giving space? And lessening this feeling of this is my role and this is your role in relationships.
Can I say, I think it's important to think about what a lot of people talk about, like toxic behavior.
Yeah.
Right. So I think to say masculinity as a whole does this thing, I think that is sort of like a misnomer. I think there are people who do these kinds of behaviors that are not cool, that are not good. But, my wife is masculine. And although I would say definitely she would not make that call, she would never be so you can't talk on the phone, or you can't do this, or you can't do that. Like, she would never do something like that.
Right.
We would be together. But I was also thinking, when you were reading, and that green beret or whatever in the head, in my head, I was like, that beret should have been gone, right? I don't understand why that beret is, you kept that for that long. And I don't know if it's because the purger in me, or if it's feeling some type of way about this beret, why are you still holding on to that? Why haven't you got over that? So for me, I was questioning, even though I would make the call, I don't agree with the beret. Why you still have the beret? So I don't know. Thinking about it and playing with it in my head is just kind of, yeah. I don't know if it's territorial or what, but
What do you think it is?
huh?
What do you think it is? What would, if you had to, I know what it is.
Right.
What do you think it is?
It's just sort of like you haven't let go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like you haven't let go. Why haven't you let go?
Yeah.
And yeah, so I just, yeah, uncomfortable to me to think like, why would you still hang on to that?
Sure.
And mind you, I meant to say something about this earlier. I came out as non-monogamous to my parents when I was like 27. So I'm 40 now. Now, when I, through, my years, I tried polyamorous relationships. So I had, I was in 2 relationships at one time, more than once. And for me, it didn't fit.
Mm-hmm.
So like even thinking about polyamory in general just didn't fit for me.
Mm-hmm.
Non-monogamy feels good to me because I'm kinky and I like to slap people around. And so I'm not going to slap my wife around. She's not going to let me do that. But I can gladly slap other people around.
Sure.
That feels good. So I feel like that is how we negotiate, how we move in the world.
It's a good distinction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He kept the letter. She kept the beret.
See, this goes back to what we were talking about they were maybe soulmates, and then the rest of the community got involved and was like, oh, you need to be with this person will be a lawyer, this person will be a doctor. The village came in and spoke, and these 2 people still have all this unfinished, they got this bag, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, I need chapter 2. I need the next version of this book. Come on.
Are we going to talk about how Cliff went and dropped this little present 5 years into him probably being with Claire and dropped it on her porch? Like, so there was this piece of him also that held on to this.
I said I was gonna go ahead and let that go.
We're gonna act like that didn't happen.
Yeah.
So there was a piece of him that also held on to what they had together. And I just wonder, like, after some time had passed and after, Eunice had gotten over or had the opportunity to get over or to talk to Cliff about what happened and why they broke up and how Claire stole him from her and all the stuff that happened, would they have been able to put that behind them as they both went on with their life and been able to have some sort of connection and even friendship where it wouldn't have had to wait till he was on his deathbed for her to see him again. Right. And I think about all that time that was spent in Cliff's life, him longing for her and her being angry and bitter and not really being able to resolve that. Because I would have loved for that encounter to be really filled with, Kiki and Ha-Han about their kids and their families and the things that could have happened that they experienced over the years. But she's just consumed with this pettiness, right? Mm-hmm. And I understand because she's never had a chance to heal that. Had they just been able to have space to just talk, they wouldn't have had, secret letters and packages on the porch, and then 50 years later, here you get an hour or 2 hours with him before he dies. Like, that just is really sad to me, especially if they had that much of a connection as they're younger.
Sure.
Yeah.
Darnell's like, whatever.
No,
But
that is sad. I didn't even think about it.
But why does that mean? Is that a bad thing that you gift someone that you love something that means something to you even after so much time? Does it have to mean something more than just love with a love for another person? That can be a friendly love, a spiritual love. There's a connection there. So are you automatically out of line for reaching back and still with someone you still have love for, you have history with? Like, you can't just eliminate that experience. So can you not at all engage intimately without it being romantically? And not be penalized for it? It would
That's a
not be a
good
bad thing.
distinction. Romance
Yeah.
versus intimate.
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean,
think that's something to explore. I mean, because like I have every letter ever written to me, every gift I've ever received, I still keep in touch with 98% of my exes, and and so I mean, of course, it's a conversation you have with the person you're with. Like I wouldn't be able to be with someone who wouldn't allow those relationships. But yeah, I mean, I don't think anything is wrong with that or him giving it to her. I think it's a beautiful gesture. But the way Michelle put it, it does make me a little sad. I'm like, oh, well, I didn't think about that part. Because I guess there are some people who would view it that way. Yeah.
Yeah. So in thinking about the Cosby Show again, and I go back to what I have decided is the most important episode of the entire series. I can't speak for anyone else. It is in part one of my favorite episodes, but in my mind, it is probably the most important episode because it does shed a little bit of light into the genesis of their relationship. And it is that episode where Cliff challenges Martin and Elvin to the husbands to give each of their wives a gift, and no one can spend more than $25. It's the episode where the beret and the plastic bracelet come into play. So when Claire opened the door, she had on that green bracelet. So she's also, playing the game. Yeah. But in my mind, in that episode, when Claire sat and listened to Cliff tell the story of how his love told him about the beret that he wanted and showed him at the Five and Dime, the particular one that she wanted, and he saved up and bought her said beret. And after he finished the story, she didn't deny it. She simply said, "That wasn't me. That was Eunice Chantilly. Eunice wanted the beret." And what that told me was Eunice was there first. And B, there was some overlap between Eunice and Cliff. Because between Eunice and Claire, because if Claire can remember a gift that Cliff wanted to get, but either didn't get or did get, and Claire knew it was for Eunice, Claire wasn't the first, and then it made Claire that much more interesting to me, because all of a sudden Claire was a maneuver, a little bit of a manipulator. Claire, had her little, Claire came from a Jack and Jill family. Daddy sits around talking about the civil rights movement. Mama playing jazz music. Everybody sipping tea, and here we have Cliff, who's this aspiring doctor. He's in the Navy. He's a good man. He needs to be with a good girl. And Eunice just never came off as that. And because we never saw her, she never got her say. It was always in the way Claire said it. Cliff never brought up Eunice Chantilly. Not once did Cliff bring up Eunice. He was content being Claire's husband. Claire kept bringing up Eunice. And when you bring up someone, even in jest, she could have brought up anybody, I guess, or anyone who flirted with him a little bit, or, any little indiscretion whatsoever. And she keeps going back to Eunice, and she hung on to Eunice. And that told me Eunice had some power where Claire was concerned, not as much where Cliff was concerned. And so, yeah, I think Eunice, and this is also why I say to the audience and to you all as well, please tune in on Thursday as we go into the Claire chapter, and next Tuesday as we go into the Cliff chapter, because these three chapters, or even the fourth chapter, if you look back at the twins episode, these four chapters actually belong to each other because it unveils how Cliff met Claire, according to my fan fiction. I'm not saying the writers said this is how it was, but when I do my my homework with the previous episodes and I put this together, the next chapter, Claire, kind of illuminates how she and Cliff came together. And then the next episode after that, Cliff, A, shows us how Cliff dies, and then B, shows us the relationship between him and Claire and Eunice. And when I put those things together, it isn't just a clean sort of, oh yeah, Cliff broke up with her, or she broke up with him and he ended up with Claire. It's a little bit deeper than that. That was long-winded, my bad. I'm looking around this space right here, and I feel like I've asked all of you who your favorite Huxtable is. Nope, I have not. I'm looking at Jeremy right now. I'm looking straight in your face right now, dude.
I'm like, I don't remember this question.
Jeremy, who's your favorite Huxtable? And if different, which one are you most like?
I would say Claire, because of her grace and the strength that, even the way you just said she's kind of a maneuver or whatever the word you use, that still takes some grace and strength to do, and calculated emotional limiting, kind of controlling, and to raise children and to be a wife and to actually have your own life about you, and do it beautifully and gracefully, and still be strong in your convictions and strong when you demand certain things, and just have the energy that she has, that kind of leveled energy that she just won't go overboard, and that's a lot of strength. And I think in a woman that's beautiful. Who I relate most to, Cliff. Cliff. Damn it. Yeah, Cliff. That's it. I don't even have to go into it, but yeah, Cliff.
Yeah, not a bad character to emulate. If you see elements of yourself in a character that was written as loving and generous and kind and good to children and great to his children and wonderful to his wife, then why not use Cliff Huxtable as?
I like the way he taught. I like the way that as a father he chose to be active and engaging and teach, instead of just being the breadwinner and do what I say when I get home, make sure my house is in order type dad. Yeah. So because I didn't have that type of father figure, it's good to have seen one that is actually invested and really trying to raise up children versus just make sure they don't die and have food to eat.
I can dig it.
Before
you
say something, Jeremy said something earlier about past lovers. Basically, they help build who we are, right? So I was trying to find this poem. It's really short. Can I just read it real quick?
Please do.
Real quick. It's not mine. It's a poem by Worcestershire, and she says, "Every mouth you've ever kissed was just practice. All the bodies you've undressed and plowed into were preparing you for me. I don't mind tasting them in the memory of your mouth. They were a long hallway, a door half open, a single suitcase still on the conveyor belt. Was it a long journey? Did it take you long to find me? You're here now. Welcome home." And that's it. And I think it's about, it's all those people who prepared you for.
That's right.
Ooh, that was great.
Woo.
Yeah. I read it years ago, and as soon as you said it, Jeremy, I was like, oh, yeah. Let me find this poem.
That's what it is.
So it's like all these people who prepared you for whoever you end up with. We all get like that deathbed bride, they call it.
Yes.
We hope, and so whatever that is.
Oh, that was great.
There's not an occasion on planet Earth that Maya Angelou hasn't written for in some way, form, or fashion. I will be starting Thursday's reading with a similar exercise. There's one of my favorite poems that she wrote from the perspective of a woman talking to the other woman about leaving her husband alone. basically. And poetry, as Darnell has illustrated, is very direct and flowery and letting us know, how to show up in the world. Thank you all for participating in tonight's conversation and certainly in tonight's reading. Velicia, thank you especially for allowing me to play opposite you and do something that I joked to Michelle last night. I am the original Eunice Chantilly. Ain't nobody playing Eunice Chantilly. I'm an original Eunice. So vain. I shouldn't do things like that, but it was a lot of fun. At any rate, and I want to thank you all, my panelists, for being a part of this. Those of you who are watching, so as we start to round out the series, we have Clair on Thursday, we have Cliff on Monday, and then next Thursday, July 9th, we have the epilogue, which will be in the form of the eulogy of Cliff Huxtable. The Reverend Dr. Carolyn L. Gordon wrote the eulogy for Cliff in the book, and she will also be performing it as a closing for the series on July 9th. But before next Thursday, we have this Thursday. And this Thursday, we have episode 12, which is chapter 11, Clair. After the reading, we will have a discussion, Life After Losing Your Partner. This panel are two amazing women who are well informed in the area of counsel and support when losing a loved one. Taya Dunn Johnson and Kat will be rejoining us as well. Marissa Kat Okadiye. These two women will lead us through a conversation of what to do in the event of the loss of a loved one, in particular, the loss of a partner. I do hope that you'll come back and join us on Thursday. Again, we'll be in the new house, and so I have no idea what all that's going to look like, but it just won't be that. So I'd say, if nothing else, just tune in to see what the house is going to look like, what room we're going to have, what setup is going to be. But whatever you do, in between now and then, please be careful out in the world. It is a good world to be in, but it's still not safe. So put on your mask, wear your gloves, do all the things that, wash your hands. That shouldn't happen without saying, wash your hands. But whatever you do, take care of yourself. And I'll see you on Thursday. All right. Bye.